you want to avoid driving people crazy and just like making your friends turn on you in an instant, then you are going to want to follow this life skill that I have for you today. Okay. As a life coach, when I see this skill happening with parents to teens or friends to other friends, or honestly, it happened this week with, I needed a plumber to come at my house and there were two of them and they did this to each other. And I was just like, oh my gosh, there's nothing socially more deadly than doing this. And I'm here to teach it to you so that you can stop doing it. And that is to stop calling out friends. Now, what do I mean by this? This is when, and we've all experienced it, when somebody says something to you or you say to somebody else, something that is embarrassing or like reprimands them, and it isn't necessary for you to say it. So here's my example that happened with the plumber this week that just made me like want to hit my head against the wall because I was like, this is so bad for your relationship. So two plumbers, they're coworkers, right? They come over to my house to help me fix my problem with my pipes. And one of them turns to me and says like, oh yeah, see this connection here? I'm pretty sure it's illegal now. Like to have a connection like this because it's not standard, right? Or something to that effect. And I'm just like, okay, yeah, we can replace it. Well, then the other plumber, who I guess maybe was a little bit more senior, looks at him and goes, you're insane. That is not what it is. It's like, you can't have that in the house because of this and this and this reason. And was like super rude and condescending about it. And here's the distinction that I think is really important for you to know. Those comments weren't necessary, or better yet, they weren't necessary for me to hear, right? They weren't necessary for the group to hear. And this happens all the time because sometimes we need to call people out. And that's why I said, stop calling out friends, right? Sometimes we got to call people out for poor behavior or when people are being mean or malicious. But this is different. This is when you're just with your group of friends and you say something like, oh my gosh, that, group project was so hard. And then one of your friends says, no, it wasn't. If you had just done this and this, it wouldn't have been so hard, right? And it's just so embarrassing. And it's just so like, you feel so called out and you just feel so put on the spot. And it's like somebody kind of calling your bluff, right? And it doesn't even necessarily have to be true or not. A lot of times this happens when we don't think we're not telling the truth. Like in that plumber example, like that's what he totally thought. And it was wrong, but it wasn't necessarily like a life or death. We need to correct this situation or this understanding right now. And so that was a lesson that other guy could have said, hey, actually, so like, this isn't, you're right. It's not up to code, but for these reasons, not the reasons that you said. And so if you ever do have to talk to a friend and correct some information that wasn't pertinent to the group or that wasn't necessary to change right then in that instant, because sometimes sometimes there's things people say that we're like, oh, actually, that's not true. Oh, actually, it was a little bit different than what you said, right? Because it was important to say that. But if it's not, take them aside and explain it. Or honestly, there's so many things that I just let go. When people maybe say that like, so here's a good example. I have a degree that is technically, if you want to look at like the technicality of my degree is in PR and advertising with an emphasis in copywriting. Okay. I know that. Like, yeah, that's cool. But sometimes like people will say like, oh, Abby has a degree in communications. Abby has a degree in marketing. And I don't stop and correct them because one, usually it's my mom shooting the breeze with her other like friends. And so it doesn't matter at all. And honestly, to me, those terms are pretty interchangeable. Now, I've been in situations before where I've like said something to the similar effect of like, oh, this is my friend Sarah, and she just graduated with a degree in biology, right? And then they'll be like, Abby, I did not. I graduated a degree in earth sciences, and I feel so put on the spot, right? Or you just feel so embarrassed. And there's a way to tactfully do this. So I want to invite you that if it doesn't matter, if it's my mom shooting the breeze with her friends and she says, oh, Abby right here graduated with a degree in communications, technically I did. I graduated from the School of Communications, even though my degree technically is like PR and advertising, right? Doesn't matter, right? So I don't really correct those ones. But if it does matter, in the case of like my made up example, my friend saying like, actually it's like earth sciences, there's a way to just casually, kindly say, you know what? Yeah, my degree's in earth sciences and I graduated with this, blah, 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 because maybe that matters. Maybe you're in front of an employer. Maybe that's really pertinent information, right? But I just want to invite you to stop calling out your friends, because you'll start to notice this, especially when people are insecure and especially when people aren't really great at reading social cues. You'll start to notice how people will call people out. And honestly, I hate to say this, but it usually is like the member of your friend group or the member of the group that people like the least, that is kind of like the low man on the totem pole, because they're like so desperate to join the conversation that they'll join it even at a negative cost of calling somebody out. So this is like social suicide. So stop calling people out for stuff that doesn't matter and doesn't make a difference. And I want to invite you on the flip end, call people out for their crap. But if it's not crap, and if it's just like you guys talking and it doesn't matter and they maybe said the wrong word when they didn't mean this, you can clarify that, right? Clarify it in kind ways or just let it go. I hope that made sense. I know that I'm like, call people out, but don't call people out. But I think you know what I mean, and I think you've seen examples of this. So if you don't know what I mean, leave a comment below. I can explain it better. Some days I can't talk as well as other days. But babe, I know that if you will stop doing this to other people, it'll make all the difference. They feel like you'll have their back. So wishing you the best of luck in your social life, and I hope that this little quick tip life skill helped you out. So subscribe to my channel if you are after more tips for high schoolers and creating the life of your dreams outside and beyond of high school. So wishing you the best of luck, babe. I'll see you in my next video. Abby J out.